Welcome back to another episode of the What We're Watching podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jeni, and today we're talking about Father of the Bride.
I love this movie so much. I'm so intrigued to hear what you think, because you had never seen it before, right?
Right, I've never seen it. But you saying that it was one of your favorite movies, I was like, okay, great. And it has Steve Martin. Love him.
Love him. Steve Martin and Martin Short, which we love. I have two trains of thought about this movie. One is that George Banks, Steve Martin, is the most traditional dad in the world, and him grieving the loss of his daughter because she's getting married is so absurd to me, and the modern woman in me hates it. But then also I love this movie so much and I just don't care.
Yeah, it's also nostalgic for you, right?
Yeah.
And my dad would act like this, I feel like, in some aspects, so it's relatable, I think, for a lot of people.
Totally. And I actually, we'll get to this at the very end, but Father of the Bride 2 is actually my favorite.
Oh, the second one in a series.
The second one.
Wow.
And so I think I love this one by association with the second one.
Wow, I'm actually shocked because never have I heard that a sequel is better than the first one.
I know.
Except maybe High School Musical 2. I feel like that one was pretty good.
I also love the second one of Legally Blonde, which I know you also haven't seen.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm not the one to comment on this, I guess. I never see the second one.
I know, but my whole pitch to you in this entire episode is that you need to watch the second one.
Okay.
So we'll see if I can do it. Okay, so the logline for this movie is George Banks, played by Steve Martin, and his wife Nina, played by Diane Keaton, are the proud parents of Annie, played by Kimberly Williams. But when she returns from studying abroad and announces that she's engaged, their whole world turns upside down, especially that of overprotective George. From meeting the in-laws to wedding plans with an over-the-top consultant, played by Martin Short, and his assistant, played by B.D. Wong, it seems as if the troubles never end in this update of the classic Spencer Tracy comedy.
I didn't know it was based on something. I thought this was the original.
Me too. Until I did research on it, I had no idea, but yes, so apparently this is based on a 1949 novel by Edward Streeter with the same name. And then there was a movie in 1950 that starred Spencer Tracy as the dad, who was at that time named Stanley Banks.
Oh, why'd they change his first name? George?
I don't know, but they have since made another remake of Father of the Bride, and that dad also has a different name.
Interesting. Well, I guess that kind of separates the actors a little bit, so it doesn't feel like they're supposed to be in a box playing the exact same person. They can kind of make it their own.
I think so. And then this movie came out in 1991, so what is that, 41 years after the original? That is the appropriate amount of time.
For a remake?
Yes.
I agree. Why are we doing 10, 20 years now?
No, it's not okay.
We don't have any other ideas, I guess.
I want to be fully middle-aged by the time we get another Twilight.
Oh my gosh. That's not going to happen. We're definitely going to get another one.
I know. Although I say that, and I'm so excited for the Harry Potter Max show that's coming.
Is that one still happening?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I read the other day that it's supposed to come out in 2026, I think.
Oh, okay.
Can't wait. So this movie is available right now on Max and Disney+. So yeah, it's an easier one to watch if you have one of those.
This is another Nancy Meyers and Charles Shire film, which I had no idea until after I watched it. And that's the duo behind The Parent Trap. We kind of talk all about them in that episode if you want to learn more. But just like in The Parent Trap, their daughters, Annie and Hallie, cameo in this movie. They're the flower girls at the end.
That's so fun. That would be so fun. If your mom was Nancy Meyers and you just got to come to set here and there and be extras.
Yeah. I think it's Hallie maybe. One of them is the same girl from The Parent Trap who gets the shaving cream wig. And I recognized her because she dances with Kieran Culkin in this movie.
Oh.
And I was like, wait a second, that looks like the girl from The Parent Trap. So yeah, it just came full circle. I love that.
Good eye. I'm very impressed you recognized her.
I have good facial recognition. Robert tells me this all the time.
Okay, should we talk about the cast?
Yeah, Steve Martin plays George Banks, and he is just so funny. He is such a talented actor.
I love him. I think he might be, I'm about to jinx it, and he's going to come out with the worst allegations
gosh.
next week. But I was about to say, he might be my favorite actor, or definitely in my top 3 to 5. I love him.
Yeah, he's really great. I think he carried such a simple plot of a movie and made it interesting and fun.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't imagine anyone else playing him.
That's true, because a lot of George Banks's lines, I think, could be read very plain, and he does a lot of things to make it like goofy dad or like funny dad. It feels very relatable.
Mm-hmm.
So he has won 5 Grammys, an Emmy, and was awarded an honorary Academy Award in 2013. And he's also been nominated for 2 Tonys.
Oh, wow.
So he didn't win the Tonys, so that's not an EGOT, but I'm wondering if he'll get that one day, maybe. And then this I loved. He's currently married to a woman named Anne Stringfield, who's a freelance writer like us.
Oh, wow.
This I don't love. She is 25 years younger than him, which is fine. It just feels classic. And once again, I love Steve Martin, so I want to just believe that he's an angel man in my head. But the fact that he is 25 years older than her, like, gives me a little bit of ick.
Yeah, the older you get, I feel like that matters less. But it is funny how, you know, we don't really think much of a 25-year age gap when it's the man who's older, but you flip that and then you're like, I don't really ever see a woman who's 25 years older than the man she's with. It's rare.
That's true. Yeah, maybe it's not fair for me to be icked out, but it does kind of ick me out.
Yeah, what is an appropriate age gap, I wonder?
Yeah, I would love your guys' opinion on this, because this feels like something that's probably rooted in something else that we don't know why we feel weird about it, or I don't know why I feel weird about it.
Well, I know why you feel weird about it, because, you know, that would be like you dating a 3-year-old.
It feels wrong. It just feels wrong. However, I will say they had their first child together, Mary, in 2012 when he was 66. And he has a couple of really cute quotes about how he loves being an older parent.
Oh, I bet that is really great for the older parents to hear that.
Yeah.
Cool. He was attached to this project before the screenplay was even developed, which I think just is like a +1 to me saying I don't think I could imagine anyone else playing him.
Totally.
Nancy Meyers did write the character for him.
I love that. It totally shows.
Mm-hmm. I think there are just some things that he does that no other actor would have been able to do. I think I read a quote where she said that while she was writing it. She was like, I knew that Steve Martin could pull off these certain things.
Totally. And I'm just remembering all the things that I love that he's in. If you guys want us to do more Steve Martin movies, please let us know, such as It's Complicated, another one of my all-time favorite rom-coms.
Another one I haven't seen. I'm the worst.
No, you're not the worst. This one is like a little more niche, so I would love for you guys to message us if you've seen this movie and you like it, because it will really validate me. It has Steve Martin and Meryl Streep and Alec Baldwin.
Okay.
That's the like love triangle of the movie. It's really good.
And then we have Kimberly Williams-Paisley, who plays Annie Banks Mackenzie.
So she's also been in the shows According to Jim and Nashville, and she's guest starred on a lot of shows and had a bunch of smaller roles in movies. But to me, this is really her claim to fame. This is like the only thing that I would recognize her from. And the best fun fact about her is that she's married to Brad Paisley, the famous country singer, and they've been together since 2003.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
I know. They're very cute. They show each other a lot on their Instagrams. It's giving very like suburban mom and dad. So you guys should go check that out if you're interested or if you like Brad Paisley. They also have 2 sons named William and Jasper. And I saw a quote that said Brad was smitten when he saw her in Father of the Bride and just always like had her in the back of his mind, and then asked her to be in a music video of his 10 years later in 2001. And that's how they got together.
Are you kidding me? That's so cute.
Isn't that so cute?
10 years later,
Mm-hmm.
he was always like, she is my movie crush.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cute.
Very cute.
I thought she was perfect for this role, but she originally didn't get the part. And so she decided to be a journalist instead of an actress. And she was in school at Northwestern, and her agent called her and said they wanted her to come back to LA to screen test. And apparently she said, I'm busy. I'm a writer now. But they said, nah, you need to be in LA.
Wow. I love that story. That's really cute.
I like how she was just like, oh, I didn't get the role. Okay, well, I'm going to go be a journalist.
I'm going to go to Northwestern, BRB.
And then we have George Newbern, who plays Brian McKenzie.
Okay, I thought I had not seen him in anything else. And that is because he looks to me so different now. Like, I Googled him today, different actor. Like, I'm still confused in my head. Like, are there 2 people with the same name that look different? But I definitely checked their IMDb, so this is right. He plays Charlie in the show Scandal, which I don't know if you've seen Scandal, but he is a big character. And like, it blew my mind to see it. So if you guys watch Scandal, look up George Newbern. He is Annie's love interest in this movie, and he is Charlie in Scandal, and you will know what I'm talking about. And then he also guest starred as Danny in Friends.
Oh, that's how I know him. Okay. I recognized him, but I couldn't tell from what.
Okay. And then he also had a recurring role as Julia's son, Payne, in the show Designing Women, which I've never seen.
No, I've never heard of that even. And then we have the Diane Keaton, who plays Nina Banks, the wife.
An icon. She's also won a bunch of awards. She's won an Academy Award, a British Academy Film Award, 2 Golden Globes, and nominations for a Tony and 2 Emmys. And she stars in Book Club, Something's Gotta Give, Annie Hall, and so much more. You guys know her. I'm sure you love her as much as we do. And in researching her, I have cracked the mystery that we've talked about in other episodes about why actors change their name, or like what society that is. It is the Actors Guild.
Okay.
So her given name is Diane Hall. So she's not related to Michael Keaton, which is something a lot of people think. And she changed her last name to her mother's maiden name when she joined the Actors Guild because there was already a Diane Hall.
This is such a weird thing that we keep finding out about people. It's like, I cannot imagine getting famous and being like, oh, I have to completely change my name in order to even be an actor.
To have my job, yeah.
Yeah. And then everyone knows you as that.
I know. I feel like names are just about to start getting nicher and nicher as we get older and older. Because did they ever expire? And then you can have the same name? Probably not.
Or can you? Because, yeah, that's going to be weird.
But then if you think about somebody like super famous, like Betty White, for example, even though she's passed, like, could a new up-and-coming actress be named Betty White now? Or would that be not allowed?
Or do they have to reach a certain level of fame in order to not have their name claimed again, you know? Like, anyone who's like a household name maybe could never be repeated, but like somebody who maybe no one would know, their name could be used.
Right, like if you've just done a handful of commercials and so you're in the Actors Guild.
Yes.
Anyway, okay, this is something else that I love about Diane Keaton. She has 2 children. Her daughter, whose name is Dexter, which I think is so cute, and her son named Duke are both in their 20s, but she adopted them when she was in her 50s and raised them by herself.
Oh my gosh, that's such a power move.
I know.
I love that.
Very cool.
And then we have one of your favorites, Martin Short, who plays Frank.
I love Martin Short. Mostly I love the combo of him and Steve Martin because they're best friends and they do a lot of projects together, including Father of the Bride 2, and obviously Only Murders in the Building. And they've also, I think my parents saw both of them do their like live comedy tour together. They do like a stand-up act together with both of them on stage.
Cute.
Yeah, I heard it was really good. I wonder actually if you can watch that. Like, I wonder if that's actually come out as a special. I hope so. So he has won 2 Emmys and a Tony. I don't know why I pulled all the awards for all these people, but they're very accomplished. And he was married to his wife, Nancy, for 30 years, from 1980 to 2010, and they have 3 kids together. And I'm dying over this. There are a bunch of rumors right now that he's dating Meryl Streep.
I've seen those, yeah.
Which I'm shook. First of all, I thought Meryl Streep was married, but maybe not. And like there's pictures of them getting dinner, and both of them have denied it. They both said that they're just friends. But I hope it's true. It's so cute.
It would be a couple we could root for.
Totally.
Like an unproblematic couple.
Did you see the most recent season of Only Murders in the Building?
No, but she's in it, right?
She's in it, yeah. I won't spoil anything though.
Frank was based on a real celebrity wedding planner named Kevin Lee, who said that Martin Short captured his character so well. And I love that. I love that it doesn't sound like he was offended by the portrayal.
Okay, great. That does make me happy because that was like the main red flag that came up to me watching this again was like, is he being offensive right now? Because like I could not pick out a specific accent or like something specific that he was trying to portray. And I guess that's because it was after a specific person. So I'm happy that that person is not offended and liked it and thought he did a good job.
Yeah, I think he was just supposed to be hard to understand. But I was wondering that too. I was like, I don't know if this is like a bad stereotype or something. Like I was trying to figure it out, but came to the conclusion that I think it was just silly.
I don't think it would be done today.
No.
But I don't think it was done in poor taste really either.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Kieran Culkin, who plays Annie's little brother, Maddie.
He is so cute in this. I have never seen him in something as a child actor. Like, obviously, his brother, Macaulay Culkin, is in, like, every movie as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always knew Kieran Culkin as, oh, it's Macaulay Culkin's brother. But it was so cute to see him, like, as a little kid in this movie. He was adorable.
I know, I forgot he was in this. He's so cute. He is the cutest little boy.
This was his first speaking role.
Aww.
And really, he didn't, when I looked at his filmography, he really doesn't have that much. Like, I'm surprised he is such a household name, I feel like. He's now getting tons of awards, though, for Succession. And he's also known for Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which is, I think, when I first started to know who he was.
Yeah, I know him from Succession. He's so good in that show. Which you haven't seen that, right?
No, I'm so behind.
Oh, it's good. It's really intense, though. So
it's really, for me, it's like the commitment of starting a new show that's so hard.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
But I've finished The Bear now. I think like a few months ago, I was like, no, I've never seen The Bear. And now I've finished it. Like, I got over the commitment issues and just did it.
Love is Blind.
Love is Blind. Never watched until season 6. Love.
You're on
Obsessed.
a roll. Which, by the way, we're both like high on Love is Blind season 6 right now. And if you guys have thoughts about the reunion or the finale, please DM us. I know it's been a couple weeks, but we are still talking about it.
Should we get into the movie?
Let's do it. So the movie opens to a documentary-style interview confessional with George Banks, played by Steve Martin. And he's sitting in a room that looks like it's set up for a wedding reception. And he says that he used to think that weddings were simple, but he was wrong. His daughter, Annie Banks Mackenzie, just got married. And I think he makes a comment about how she's now Banks Mackenzie, and he's going to have to get used to that. And he says other dads will understand how he feels, but she used to be so small and like looked up to him and he was her hero, but now she's a grown, married adult woman, which I feel like is probably a feeling a lot of dads can relate to.
I think just parents in general, that must be weird when your kid is like an adult with a family of their own.
Totally.
And then the story starts 6 months ago after Annie had been studying architecture in Rome. George runs an athletic shoe company, and he's very distracted at work because he knows that Annie is coming home. And so on his way home, he drives through San Marino, which is a cute small town in California, and he says he likes it because it hasn't changed much since he moved there. And he's not big on change, which we will see for ourselves.
I know. Is San Marino a real town?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. If any of our California listeners have been to San Marino, I would love pictures.
Has it changed since this movie? I would assume yes.
And so when George gets home from work, we meet his wife, Nora, and his son, Maddie. And we find out that Maddie was an accident baby and he's much younger than Annie. She just
That's
kind of
relatable.
Slides that in there. Yeah. We find out that Annie is home. And then at dinner, George asks Annie about going to a Paul Simon concert. And she seems less excited than he thought that she was going to be about it. And she says that it's because something's on her mind. Nothing would terrify me more as a parent.
I'd be like, you're pregnant.
I know.
First thought.
Same. And they're like, just tell us. And she finally admits that she met someone in Rome, and his name is Brian Mackenzie, and she's actually engaged, which I feel like my parents would freak out if I came home and was like, I met somebody 6 weeks ago and we're already getting married and you've never met them.
I'd be like, this is a serial killer. Why couldn't you wait?
I know. And so her and George argue because George does have this approach where he's like, no, you're not. No, it's not happening. But eventually it's really cute because George says, if you love him so much, I know I'll love him too. And then Annie's like, good, because he's going to be here in an hour for you to meet him.
I hate everything about this plan of hers. It was not well constructed.
No.
I feel like she needed to do like a PowerPoint presentation on why she was ready to get married to this man.
Oh, totally.
So while they wait for Brian, Annie and George play basketball, and it's their thing. It's so cute. And I love that they're wearing the shoes that are from Steve Martin's company, and they kind of wear them throughout the whole movie. And when Brian gets there, he's so excited to see Annie, and he's very polite when meeting her parents, but we can hear what George is thinking, his inner monologue, and he's already decided that he does not like this kid.
Yeah.
And they talk about Brian's job. He says he's like an independent software consultant or something like that, and George is convinced that's not a real thing. And he's kind of a jerk the whole time, but Annie's mom is so excited for her. You can tell actually that there's like a moment where she kind of switches and she like sees how much Brian and Annie love each other and she's all in after that.
Yeah. She like very much becomes Annie's like supporter or like her advocate between her and George to try to like calm George down from here on out in the movie. But this whole scene to me is giving Bachelor hometowns, like the way that they're sitting on a couch together and her parents are sitting across the coffee table like asking questions. It's so awkward.
Or even Love is Blind when they meet the parents and they're like, oh, so you're engaged.
Yes, exactly.
Who are you?
You're engaged and this is the first time we're meeting. That's a way better comparison, actually. So then after Brian and Annie leave, George has a meltdown, but Nina reminds him that they were just as much in love and just as touchy when they first got engaged. So she's kind of calling him out on the hypocrisy of like, that's exactly how we were. You can't be mad that she's acting the same way that we did.
I love also that he's like, they're too young for that when it was different with us. And she's like, I was younger than she is right now. I was her age when I had her.
Yeah.
I love that.
Me too.
So then Nina and George go to Bel Air to meet their in-laws, Brian's parents. And George is still cranky the whole time. But when they get to the Mackenzie's house, it's this huge mansion. And they have these big, scary dogs. I think they're Dobermans. And they have a bunch of staff that works for them. And it's a very impressive house. And the Mackenzies say that they went to Rome to see Brian. And they actually already got to meet Annie while they were there. And they love her. And George and Brian's dad both say that they were shocked by the news. And you can tell that this makes George feel a little bit better. That Brian's dad also was like, yeah, that was kind of crazy that they just got engaged so quickly.
But this threw me off because when the Mackenzies said that they had already met Annie, I was expecting George, or at least his inner monologue, to be like, what the heck? Like, we didn't even know about this until after it happened.
Yeah, it's kind of like you couldn't call Annie.
Right.
They didn't even know she was dating anybody.
I know.
She could have planted the seeds. She could have been like, oh, I'm seeing this guy. His name is Brian. You know, like he's really great.
Mm-hmm.
And then surprise them when she got home.
I know. My mom told me one time, I don't know if she's going to kill me for saying this, but that I think when she was growing up, my grandma was like, if you ever have bad news, call your dad while he's at work before you get home so that he has time to process. And then when he gets home, we'll be able to have an actual conversation about it because it won't just be reactive. And that is this to me. Like,
that's what Annie should have done.
Exactly. I don't know why she didn't, especially if they were meeting his parents. But it didn't seem to bother George and Nina because, like you said, he seems to just be put a little bit more at ease when Brian's dad says that he also was shocked that they got engaged. So whatever.
And we're more angry than he is, I guess. We're the overreactors.
I know.
So then George goes to the bathroom and he snoops around and he's looking in their bathroom cabinets and stuff and he accidentally breaks their bathroom mirror. And then he goes into Brian's dad's office, which is kind of connected to the bathroom. And he's looking through all of his stuff and then the housekeeper comes in. So he hides under the desk and one of the Dobermans is under there. So then we've got this whole thing of him running from the dogs. He falls through the upstairs porch and into the yard. And he's holding, what is he holding?
He's holding Brian's dad's bank book.
You're right, yeah. And he just forgot to drop it when he saw the dogs. He ends up falling into the pool while trying to fish out Mr. Mackenzie's bank book that he dropped in there. And Nina sees him and she sees this whole ordeal and she has to distract the Mackenzies because they're at like a dinner table just having a nice time. And then just Steve Martin out in the background being unhinged.
So chaotic. I loved it though because it made me, I just love Nina and George's dynamic and the fact that Nina is like covering for him, but also you can tell she's so mad at him, which is really cute.
But this is like his normal antics. So she's just like, oh, he's up to his stupid stuff again. Okay, I got to cover for him.
Yeah, exactly. Annie has dinner at her parents' house the next night. And while they're eating, she tells them that she wants to do the wedding reception at their house. And George is so excited because it's going to save a lot of money. But he is interpreting this as like a little kid's birthday party. So he's like, perfect, I'll make my famous guac and I'll get balloons. And you can see just Annie's face fall. And Nina is just like disappointed again. And so later that night, Nina says, everyone understands that this is a wedding except for you. Like, what are you doing, George, basically?
He thinks it's a backyard barbecue. Which honestly, I'm going to be for real. When I watched it for the first time and I saw it and what he was thinking the wedding would be, I was like, oh, that's so cute. That would be a great wedding, because I thought it was flash forwarding to the future. And so I was being very supportive, and I was like, yeah, a family barbecue wedding. That sounds so cute.
I do also love the idea of a family barbecue wedding.
I love family barbecues. They're the
me
best.
too. Any hangout in the backyard, like casual hangout, I love. We did a welcome party for our wedding in my parents' backyard that was very cash, and I loved it. So I'm with you. She also tells George that the Mackenzies want to chip in to help pay for the wedding, and that she's going to hire a wedding coordinator to help make the wedding great. And they argue about this. I think George, as the bride's father, like wants to do the traditional thing where they cover everything. I don't think he likes the fact that the Mackenzies seem to be very wealthy and are like happy to chip in. I think his like ego is hurt a little bit. But finally he says, fine, I'll meet the wedding coordinator. So he gives in.
So they go to a wedding planning meeting to meet the wedding coordinator, who is Frank, played by Martin Short. And George has a very hard time understanding Frank, but the girls understand everything he says and they love him. Then George is freaking out at the cost of the cake that they chose. And he goes, a cake, Frank, is made of flour and water. My first car didn't cost $1,200. Fair, honestly.
Fair. Oh, fair. Oh, yeah.
One thought I had during this whole thing is I was like, yes, I'm with the girls here that a wedding costs money. At the same time, they're expecting George to pay, and he is not okay with any of this. And I'm like, why? You have other options than a $1,200 cake and a huge wedding coordinator.
Oh, 1,000%.
And I think we find out later money isn't actually an issue for them because they don't go on vacation a lot and they actually can afford it. But still, I feel like, I don't know, they need a little more buy-in from him before they make these big decisions.
No, I totally agree. And like, yeah, it is interesting because Annie is so practical and she's very smart and very independent in a lot of ways. And so it is kind of weird to have her just be like, oh yeah, I want this like big fancy thing, and not be like, $1,200 is ridiculous.
Yeah. And wasn't her ring from like a street market vendor?
Yes. Like it was just a plain, I think, silver band. Yeah. So it is interesting. I think it's really just in there for the sake of the comedy of like the girls being like, this is so fun, we get to pick stuff. And George being like the crotchety dad. But $1,200 also, by the way, is very ridiculous. I remember we looked at wedding cakes and they were like $600 and we were like, absolutely not. Like over my dead body.
And so what did you guys do?
We got a ton of Krispy Kreme donuts and it was so fun.
You guys, it was the best. It was truly the best decision. I will be thinking about it for the rest of my life.
Jeni and I are big donut girls. So then at work, George gets a call with the final estimate for Annie's wedding from Frank and his assistant. And it turns out to be $250 per head, which is wild.
That is a lot.
This was in, what, early 2000s, I think? Is that what we said? 1991 even?
1991. Mm-hmm.
$250 per person in 1991 is absurd, which I'm sure that was the point. They wanted to make it a number that like would be objectively high to anyone.
They're going to a celebrity wedding planner. That's what's weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's what's making this so crazy expensive. I don't understand.
That's a good point. And so George marches to his office and he does the math, and the final head count is 572 people.
$143,000.
That's a lot of money.
Also, 572 people.
In their house.
She also said she didn't have any friends. She said, I don't have that many friends. It'll be fine. It'll be small.
Not the case.
I'm confused.
Well, I think we get a little bit more context about why it's that many people that night. So at home, George like makes this speech and is like, we're not getting up from this table until we cut the list down. And they start going through people, and it's a lot of like the Mackenzies' extended family and Nina and George's old colleagues and things like that. I would be willing to bet that the number one reason people end up with like insanely huge wedding guest lists is because their parents are paying for part of the wedding, part or all of the wedding, and they have a lot of people that they want invited.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my guess.
That would be tough.
We got very lucky in that our parents did not do that, but I can imagine it would be, we can see it on Annie's face, like how disappointed she feels, like sitting there with them while they're fighting about all these random people that she probably doesn't even know. and that's what's stressing her dad out so much.
Mm-hmm. So another day, Franck and his team, including his assistant, who's played by B.D. Wong, go to the Banks' house to finalize the details. They audition singers, including Eugene Levy.
That's who that was, right?
Yes, 100%. The eyebrows were unmistakable.
Mm-hmm.
They discuss moving the furniture in the house, planting flowers, and the whole menu. George is so overwhelmed. He runs away. And
He's like, I cannot be here anymore. Bye.
yeah, he's like trying to argue with them about every single decision they're making and why it's not necessary. And then he just leaves. And he ends up at the grocery store where a store clerk catches him ripping open hot dog bun bags because he says he wants to buy 8 buns to go with a pack of 8 hot dogs. And he doesn't need the extra buns because why would you need the extra buns when only 8 hot dogs come in a pack? And so he goes on this huge rant in the grocery store about how the man is always trying to rip off the American public. It's just a huge scene.
The most unhinged part of the whole movie, I think.
Probably one of the best parts, though. I loved it.
I know.
I was like, wait, you're right. Why don't they match up the hot dogs to the buns?
It's the man. It's the bun corporation saying you have to buy 12, sorry. And so George gets arrested. Actually, sorry, I bet I know what it was. I bet they both originally came in packs of 12, and the hot dog manufacturers said, I bet we could charge the same amount and do a pack of 8.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're probably right.
So that if people want 12, they have to buy 2 packs.
Rude. I hate it.
Hate it. So anyway, this little stint in the grocery store gets him arrested. And Nina picks him up from jail. Honestly, Nina is an angel for all of this.
A saint.
Truly. And she says, you've been more than I can handle, George. Annie's wedding is not a conspiracy against you. And we don't go to Europe. We don't drive fancy cars. I don't have nice jewelry. So we can afford to have a nice wedding. And so while he's like behind bars, she says, you have to promise me that you're going to pull it together, act your age, and remember your daughter's feelings. And he does.
And she makes him repeat it, which I love.
Yeah.
And then another day at the Banks house, the Mackenzies pull up with a brand new car as a gift for Annie and Brian. And this is so sad and kind of ironic because George had just gotten out his gift for Annie. And then when he saw how extravagant their gift was, he felt ashamed because it was not as big of a deal. But Annie comes in and she asks him about the present, so he reluctantly gives it to her. And it's a cappuccino maker that she wanted. And you can actually tell that it does mean a lot to her. And she says, I couldn't love anything more.
So cute.
I'm glad this was resolved in one scene and not something he was hiding from her for a long time because he was ashamed. I'm glad he just gave it to her.
Me too. I thought it was really sweet. So then we see this full montage of wedding prep where Maddie is trying on a suit, which is adorable. Nina's counting RSVPs and George picks out his tux.
Annie storms in crying and says that the wedding is off. And George runs upstairs to comfort her. And she explains that Brian gave her a blender for her to use in their apartment. And very understandably, George is confused. We're all confused. And Annie says, what is this, 1958? Give the little wife a blender? And she says she's freaked out about the expectations of being a wife. And Brian said she was overreacting. And she says, no one in my family overreacts. Which is
hilarious.
A lie. Yes, hilarious lie. And then she says that Brian also lied about something. He told her about the day that George threw Mr. Mackenzie's bank book in the pool, and Annie didn't believe him. And so this was another reason why she wants to call off the wedding. This whole scene was unhinged because I was like, wait, you were just so excited that your dad got you a cappuccino maker, but then your fiance gives you a blender and you're upset? I'm confused.
I know. I like what they were trying to do here. Where like, I really think for the time, as much as we like said at the beginning that this feels like a very traditional family dynamic, I think they were trying to make Annie this very like, I don't know, like modern young lady. I think she also makes a comment earlier in the movie that she thought that she never wanted to get married and she thought she didn't believe in marriage. Mm-hmm. But then she met Brian. And so I think what they're trying to do here is like reiterate that part of Annie. But it is funny that she's like having a complete meltdown over a blender. It gives 22. It gives that she's 22, that she like ran home to her parents and were like, I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, oh, if this is your first reaction to a conflict, if this is your first fight, are you ready to get married?
100%. Yeah.
But Kimberly Williams-Paisley kind of knew this was ridiculous too. She said that it wasn't easy for her to get the tears flowing for this scene. But then she thought about how her not being able to cry meant she wasn't a good actress. And she said, suddenly, waterworks.
Aw.
I could just imagine being so frustrated at myself not being able to do a thing and then being like, man, that means I'm bad at this thing, and then just crying.
Oh, totally. That's very relatable, I think. So then Brian shows up to their house to see Annie, but she won't talk to him. So George takes him out for a drink. And while they talk about Brian and Annie's argument, George realizes that Brian is actually a great guy. I think we see the big change in George after Nina talks to him at the jail and then after he sees Annie upset. Because I think he flips into like dad mode when she's upset. And he's still kind of in that mindset when he's going out with Brian. And so George actually admits to Brian that he's a big overreactor and he comes from a long line of big overreactors and that Annie is just really passionate. And so sometimes she gets upset about things. And he reminds Brian that Annie's passion also makes her an individual and like gives her a lot of the qualities that Brian really likes about her. And then we hear in his like internal monologue that he's realizing that Annie is just like him and Brian is a lot like Nina and they're a perfect match.
Oh, that was so cute.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And then George goes back to Annie and tells her to forgive Brian because he didn't mean anything by the gift. And he admits the story about the bank book is true. Annie and Brian make up in the hallway and make out while George stands there so awkwardly. I was uncomfortable, honestly.
Me too.
I was like, please, no, not in front of your dad.
I know.
I've been seeing the TikToks that are like, weddings are so embarrassing. Like, and all the comments are like, I can't imagine kissing my partner in front of my family. And I'm like, same.
They are. Honestly, though, like I was months and months just like in a panic about just walking down the aisle. Because like, I was like, I don't want everybody standing that close to me, staring at me. And I am expected to like be the host in the situation. No, like worst nightmare.
But it ended up being fine, right?
It was fine. Yeah, it was totally fine.
It's funny because as the person watching and like participating in the wedding, none of it is awkward.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that we don't like attention in that way with like all eyes on us at the same time.
Oh, totally. I love going to weddings. They're my favorite thing.
They're so much fun.
Yeah. That's really funny though. I haven't seen that on TikTok. That's hilarious. Okay, so then it's the day before Annie and Brian's wedding. And the house is chaotic. There's people painting, there's people dropping off swans, there's gardeners, there's furniture movers. And that night, Maddie practices walking down the aisle with his dad. It's so cute.
So cute. He's like right together, left together.
Yeah, he's adorable. And then George can't sleep because he's remembering all of his favorite memories of Annie's childhood.
It turns out that he isn't the only one that can't sleep. He walks outside and finds Annie playing basketball by herself, and they have a heart-to-heart, and it starts snowing. I can't remember, but I think they said it's the first time it's snowed in Southern California in like 30 years or something like that, and I love that. And George says that he knows he'll remember this moment for the rest of his life.
Cute. And then it's wedding day, and there's so much snow on the ground. Like, this would not happen.
No.
But it's like very theatrical. I like it. So they have to blow dry the flowers. They have to shovel the front path. Like, no, there would not be enough snow to shovel.
No, definitely not in California.
It would be like we grew up in Georgia, and I feel like the maximum we got was like an inch and a half, maybe. And that was like cause for sledding. So anyway. And we also see them put the swans in the bathtub. So it's just like chaotic preparation because of the snow.
And then they're running late to the church. So George runs upstairs to get Annie. And she's wearing a lacy, long-sleeve wedding dress that I feel like is very of the early 90s, like late 80s. And she's got this big veil and sneakers. She's wearing George's sneaker brand, and they're all done up and have lace on them, and they're like very bridal sneakers. It's very cute.
Yeah, it's very cute. This made me appreciate weddings that happened before social media. Like the idea that he just ran upstairs to get her and then happened to see her in her dress. And it wasn't like a moment. You know, you see a lot of brides that go out and like tap their dad on the back of their like shoulder and have them turn around. And it's like there's photographers there and it's like this whole thing, which I think is amazing for the people that do it. But I kind of loved how like casually he was just like, hey, we gotta go. And then like, oh, she looks so beautiful and she's wearing the sneakers and it was really cute.
Yeah, and they just have a wedding at a church and it's like it's not picture perfect. It's just like a normal thing. Yeah, I was thinking that too actually while watching. Just different nowadays.
Yeah. And they get married and the wedding is very traditional. It's very beautiful. And George gets very sentimental about the line, who presents this woman? And we can hear in his inner monologue, he's like panicking because he blanks about what he's supposed to say to that question. And he says he's getting so sentimental about it because he's finally realizing that she's a woman. Like, who presents this woman? And she's not a kid anymore.
Yeah. The reception is so busy that George can't find Annie. And then cops come and they say they have to get the cars off the street in the next 30 minutes. There's like hundreds of cars on the street. And so George says he'll handle it. And he gets Maddie and his friend Cameron, these little 8-year-olds, to help him move a bunch of the cars onto the front lawn. And it's so cute and funny. And then they've just got this parking lot on their front lawn.
It is really funny. I can't believe they didn't crash any of them.
That would not happen in real life. They would be crashed for sure.
And suddenly it's time for Annie to throw the bouquet and leave for her honeymoon. And I was thinking, did they not do a father-daughter dance?
No.
I wonder if that wasn't a thing as much then.
Not sure.
And so Annie's looking for him before she leaves, but George is stuck behind waiters in the kitchen. So they're kind of like trying to get to each other, but they don't quite make it in time. And Annie throws the bouquet and leaves out the door just as George gets there. And we see Nina sigh and say, he missed it, which made me so sad.
This was devastating. Devastating. I was like, are you kidding me? This entire time there was this whole build-up. He finally had a moment where he accepted that she's growing up, and then he doesn't even get to participate in her wedding reception that he worked so hard for and paid so much money for. I'm still upset about it, to be honest. I did not like that.
No, it made me really sad. And it made me sad because I was like, was there really no way that he could have like prioritized being in there with her? Or like she didn't come find him? I don't know. It just made me sad.
Why didn't they say, hang on, just stop everything for a second. Has anyone seen George?
Yeah.
Get him in here.
Yeah. But like, I get the parking thing needed to happen, but maybe that just took a lot longer than they showed. It just made me so bummed. I will say, for anyone getting married out there, one of the best things my husband and I did is we had the backyard kind of get together the night before, and we really tried to talk to as many people at that as we could so that the night of our actual wedding, we were not like separated and trying to like talk to people and like do the we're going around to every table thing, which I know is controversial because a lot of people think it's really important to like go to every table and talk to every person that comes. But we were like, if we do that, we are going to spend the whole 3-hour reception talking to people.
Yeah.
When like I want to dance and like be present.
That's so smart.
Would recommend.
After everyone leaves, Annie calls her dad and says she loves him and she couldn't leave before saying goodbye. So at least she did call and say goodbye, and this means a lot to him.
And then George and Nina dance in their empty house barefoot with the wedding decorations up and the twinkly lights all around. It's a very sweet moment. And that's the end. That's
the end. And George is totally at peace now because Annie called, and so we're good. It's a happy ending, even though it doesn't sound happy.
It is. You really can see his like whole demeanor change when she calls, and he like even excitedly looks at Nina and is like, it's Annie. And she just like smiles. It's really cute.
Like, she's still going to be my daughter. Like, this doesn't change anything.
She still wants to talk to me.
It was cute. I really liked it. I thought it was fun. I don't know that it would be a movie that I would get super into for the first time nowadays, but I can see how it's nostalgic and iconic. And I'm really glad I have seen it because I feel like it's a classic that everyone has seen. And now I'm part of the club.
Yay. I'm glad you've seen it too now. And you have to watch the second one.
Okay.
Sorry, you have to. Can I tell you the premise?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty sure this is in the log line and like would be in the description, so I don't think this will spoil it. But just in case, if you guys haven't seen it and you don't want to hear the premise of the movie, skip ahead like 30 seconds. Annie is pregnant, gets pregnant in the second one.
Okay.
And so does Nina.
Again?
Yes. It's like a big surprise. It happens right at the beginning of the movie, so you find out very quickly. And so that is the premise of the second one, and it's so funny. So good.
Oh my gosh. That sounds hilarious. I love that.
Yeah, it's much less rom-com-y because she's not getting married. It's just like, holy crap, this is happening to both families at the same time. And there's like a period where Annie stays with them. And so George has both women, like both super pregnant women in the house. And it's just, it's so funny. And Maddie is in the movie a lot more.
Oh,
because he's a little bit older.
When did that come out? Do you know?
It came out in 1995. So that would have been 4 years later.
Okay. Wow, wait, okay, I definitely want to watch that. I think I would love that.
I think you would like it. To me, I like it better than the first one, but you need the first one to understand the second.
Ooh, maybe we should do a Father of the Bride 2 episode.
I would love nothing more than that, but you guys tell us if you would be interested. And you can watch Father of the Bride 2 right now. It looks like on Hulu and Disney+.
Cool.
They've also done a Father of the Bride Part 3-ish, which I have not seen, but I believe it has the same cast and it's a short that came out in 2020.
I think I saw that. It seemed like kind of what everyone was doing in 2020, where the cast would get on a Zoom and then read the script.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, so I bet that would be a really fun watch.
Okay, yeah, I would like that. Since then, they've remade this movie, and it stars Andy Garcia, and it has a bunch of other great actors and actresses in it. I know it also has Chloe Fineman from SNL in it, and that came out on Max in 2022. And I believe the plot of that one is a little bit different, but the concept is the same.
Okay, I would be so curious to see how they modernized it, because I'm sure they did. I'm sure they changed a lot to make it a little more modern from what we were talking about earlier, where we were like, if this was made today, they wouldn't do this.
Yeah,
you know?
I know, I'm sure. I haven't seen it, but I'm curious too.
I hope it's good.
Yeah, if you guys have seen it, you'll have to let us know.
Well, thank you so much for listening.
If you liked this episode, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and a good review. And you can follow us on social media at What We're Watching Pod on TikTok and Instagram. We love talking to you guys.
It's the highlight of our day. Highlight of our day. If we get a comment or a message from you, we just text each other immediately and talk about it and fangirl over you. So thank you.
I know, it's so fun. I feel like you guys get us and you get all the movies that we're talking about and you like get our opinions on it. It just makes us really happy.
They just really get me. Yeah.
Well, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.